The LPGA just exposed what everyone already knew, but nobody wanted to admit. The WNBA has been sabotaging its own biggest star while pretending to support women's sports. And now, with Caitlin Clark set to return from her ankle injury in February 2025, the golf world is already preparing to steal the spotlight again. What happened at the Annika Pro-Am wasn't just a crossover event, it was a masterclass in how to treat a generational talent, something the WNBA still refuses to learn. Let's talk about what's really happening here, because the jealousy has reached levels that would be hilarious if it wasn't so pathetic. While Caitlin Clark has been recovering from her ankle sprain that sidelined her in early January 2025, the LPGA has been planning their next move to capitalize on her star power. They're already in talks for multiple appearances this year, treating her like the marketing goldmine she actually is. Meanwhile, certain WNBA players are still posting cryptic messages about media favorites and undeserved attention. The timing couldn't be more revealing. Before we dive deeper into this mess, if you're tired of the WNBA's politics and want real coverage of what's happening with players like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, hit that subscribe button right now. We're exposing the truth they don't want you to see. Here's what nobody's talking about. Sources close to the Indiana Fever organization are saying that Caitlin's golf appearances have created internal tension that goes way beyond social media shade. Some veteran players are reportedly frustrated that she's getting endorsement opportunities they feel should be spread around more evenly. But here's the brutal truth they don't want to hear. Brands don't care about participation trophies, they care about who moves the needle. And right now, that's Caitlin Clark by a mile. The numbers from her last LPGA appearance are absolutely insane. Television ratings jumped 47% compared to the previous year. Social media engagement exploded by over 300%. Golf courses that hosted practice rounds saw attendance triple. And this was for a Wednesday Pro-Am event that normally gets zero mainstream coverage. The LPGA understood something the WNBA still doesn't. When you have lightning in a bottle, you don't try to contain it. You let it illuminate everything around it. That wasn't the whole story. What really set off the jealousy brigade was when Nelly Korda publicly said Caitlin could probably make the LPGA tour if she dedicated herself to golf full-time. That comment went viral within hours, and suddenly, WNBA players who hadn't said anything publicly about Caitlin in months were all over social media talking about respect for the game and staying in your lane. The hypocrisy was staggering. These same players celebrate when LeBron shows up to their games or when male athletes praise them. But when their own colleague gets recognition in another sport, it's somehow disrespectful. What happened next would shock everyone who still believed the WNBA was a unified sisterhood. Anonymous sources started leaking to reporters about how certain players felt Caitlin was using basketball as a stepping stone to other opportunities. Can you imagine being that insecure? Here's a 23-year-old who transformed women's college basketball, brought millions of new fans to the WNBA, and is using her platform to elevate all women's sports, and they're mad because she's good at golf too? The timing of these leaks wasn't coincidental either. They came right as Caitlin's injury update revealed she'd be back sooner than expected, potentially by mid-February 2025. Some players were apparently hoping her time away would cool down the hype, let other storylines develop. Instead, her golf appearances kept her in the headlines, and brands kept lining up with massive offers. Nike reportedly increased her deal by 20%, just based on the crossover appeal she demonstrated. Meanwhile, other WNBA stars are wondering why their endorsement opportunities aren't growing at the same rate. Here's the part that really exposes the jealousy. When Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin's new teammate after joining the Fever in 2025, posted support for Caitlin's golf appearances, she got absolutely roasted by certain fan bases. Sophie, who's never been afraid to speak her mind, fired back with facts. She pointed out that rising tides lift all boats, that Caitlin's popularity was bringing attention to the entire league. But instead of supporting that message, some players liked and shared posts criticizing Sophie for being a follower and not standing up for WNBA veterans. The contrast with how the LPGA handled everything is shocking. They didn't just invite Caitlin to play, they built an entire marketing campaign around her appearance. They created special content, arranged media opportunities, and made sure every moment was captured and shared. They treated her like what she is, a transcendent athlete who happens to play basketball, but whose appeal goes far beyond any single sport. The WNBA's response? complete radio silence from the league office, while players engaged in petty social media warfare. But here's where it gets really interesting. Industry insiders are now saying that the LPGA is planning to offer Caitlin a standing invitation to multiple events throughout 2025. They're not trying to steal her from basketball. They're smart enough to know that's not happening. But they recognize that having her involved even peripherally brings massive value to their sport. They're talking about creating a special amateur category just for her, potentially even naming an award after her for crossover athletes. That's how you capitalize on star power. Meanwhile, the WNBA is still trying to figure out how to market its own product. The league's 2025 season preview barely mentioned Caitlin Clark, focusing instead on trying to manufacture storylines around other players. Don't get me wrong, there are incredible talents in the league who deserve recognition. But pretending your biggest draw doesn't exist because some players' feelings are hurt is business malpractice. The real tragedy here is what this means for young girls watching all of this unfold. They're seeing that excellence isn't always celebrated, that being too successful makes you a target, that other women might try to tear you down instead of lifting you up. That's not the message women's sports should be sending. The LPGA gets it. They're showing that there's room for everyone to succeed, that one person's spotlight doesn't diminish anyone else's light. What really sealed the deal on exposing the jealousy was when A'ja Wilson, without mentioning Caitlin by name as usual, posted about athletes who should focus on their primary sport before trying to be good at everything. This coming from someone who's appeared in fashion shows, done modeling campaigns, and pursued acting opportunities. The double standard is so obvious, it's insulting to fans' intelligence. When established players branch out, it's called building their brand. When Caitlin does it, it's called disrespectful. The financial implications of this jealousy are staggering. Marketing experts estimate that the WNBA has left tens of millions of dollars on the table by not properly leveraging Caitlin's popularity. Every time she appears at a golf event, searches for WNBA content spike. Every viral moment she creates brings new eyes to women's basketball. But instead of capitalizing on this, the league seems more concerned with managing egos than maximizing revenue. Here's something that just leaked from a source close to the situation. Several WNBA team owners are privately furious about how the league has handled the Caitlin Clark situation. They see the money she's generating for other sports and wonder why their own league can't figure out how to harness that energy. One owner allegedly said in a private meeting that the league's inability to market Caitlin properly is organizational malpractice. Strong words, but when you're leaving money on the table to appease jealous players, what else would you call it? The response from fans has been overwhelming. Social media is flooded with people calling out the hypocrisy, the jealousy, the missed opportunities. Caitlin Clark jerseys are still the top sellers despite her injury, despite the lack of promotion from the league, despite everything. Fans know what they want, and they're voting with their wallets. The Indiana Fever's season ticket sales for 2025 are already up 30% from last year. And she hasn't even played since early January. But that wasn't even the most shocking revelation. Reports are now surfacing that some players tried to organize an informal boycott of events where Caitlin would be featured prominently. They wanted to make a statement about equity and fair coverage. The plan fell apart when sponsors made it clear they would pull funding if the league's biggest draw was deliberately sidelined. Money talks, and right now it's saying Caitlin Clark is the face of women's basketball, whether certain players like it or not. The LPGA, watching all this drama unfold, must be laughing all the way to the bank. They're getting a marketing boost from basketball's biggest star, while the WNBA shoots itself in the foot repeatedly. They've already announced that events featuring Caitlin will have expanded coverage, additional sponsor activations, and special promotional campaigns. They're treating her like the asset she is, not the threat some WNBA players seem to think she represents. What makes this even more frustrating is that Caitlin has handled everything with absolute class. She's never responded to the shade, never called out the jealousy, never played the victim. She just keeps showing up, keeps performing, keeps growing the game. Her response to the latest controversy was simply to post highlights from her golf round with a caption thanking the LPGA for the opportunity. No drama, no shots fired, just pure professionalism. The generational divide in the WNBA is becoming impossible to ignore. Younger players generally support Caitlin and understand that her success benefits everyone. They see the increased salaries, the better travel accommodations, the growing media coverage, and they know who's largely responsible for it. But some veteran players seem stuck in a scarcity mindset, acting like there's only room for one star, when the reality is the pie is growing for everyone. Here's the bottom line that nobody wants to admit. The LPGA just gave the WNBA a free boshi lesson in marketing, and the WNBA failed the test spectacularly. While golf embraced their unexpected superstar visitor, basketball's establishment tried to minimize her impact. While the LPGA created viral moments, the WNBA created viral controversies. While one sport looked forward, the other looked petty. As Caitlin prepares to return from injury in the coming weeks, the question isn't whether she'll continue to dominate on the court. That's a given. The question is whether the WNBA will finally wake up and realize what they have, or if they'll continue letting jealousy and ego prevent them from reaching their full potential. Based on what we've seen so far in 2025, don't hold your breath. The most ironic part of all this is that Caitlin Clark has done more for the WNBA in 2 years than most players do in entire careers. She's brought new fans, new money, new opportunities, and her reward has been constant criticism from players who should be thanking her for growing their platform. The LPGA recognized her value immediately. The WNBA is still in denial. If you're as frustrated as we are about how the WNBA continues to fumble the Caitlin Clark situation, make sure to like this video and drop a comment below. What do you think about players being jealous of their own league's biggest star? And don't forget to subscribe, because we'll keep exposing the truth about what's really happening behind the scenes in women's basketball. The establishment might not want these stories told, but we're not going anywhere.